Hello there, and a very warm welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools. And yes, it's me again, Phil, the Brummie that hails from Birmingham, England. Now, today is part one of the new training series where I'm going to continue the theme of Power Query and combining multiple files from multiple sources. But this time, I will perform the data visualization as promised through Power BI. Now, to create the visual you see before you, we first need to bring in the source data from multiple sources and locations, and then we will need to transform this data all with Power Query, which will be the focus of today's video. So, without further ado, let's do this. So I've got my Power BI desktop application open and I'm going to choose new report here. So I'm going to select that. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring the data into the report. So I'm going to select Excel workbook. I'm going to navigate to where that Excel file that's got the budget information and the cross-reference information, which is my portfolio budget report here. If I select that and open it, and here I can see the tables in that Excel file, and the files that I want, or the tables that I want, is the projects table, which has got my cross-reference information, project, program and category. And I also want the portfolio budget information where we maintain the budget. I'm then going to select load because we don't need to do anything to those yet. So I'm going to select load. It will load those two tables into Power BI. So there are my two tables that is brought in. So next I need to bring in the actuals data. So I need to point Power BI to where the file location, i.e. the folder location for my actuals, and that are split between two sets of programs in location 1 and location 2. So I'm going to select get data. So on the home ribbon, get data, more, and I'm going to select folder and then click connect. I then need to browse and navigate to where that first folder location is. So there's my folder there. So if I select monthly actuals location 1 and click OK, and then click OK again. And this time I'm not going to click load, I'm not going to click combine, I'm going to do transform data. And like we did in the budget versus actuals Excel dashboard that we did, I'm going to, this is where the data is within binary, so I'm going to right click on the content column and say remove other columns. And then these two downward facing arrows, I'm going to click that to combine those files. And I'm going to select sheet 1, not the table this time. And remember, I talked about in combining data from multiple files. And again, I'll put a link to that video where I talk about what state your data needs to be in as far as data quality and how to manage your Excel files. And I talk about that in depth in that video. And I'll put a link to that video within the description. So I'm going to select sheet 1. And I'm going to click apply changes. So over here you can see I've got my visualization. So I'm in the report view at the moment. I can click the table view and you can see I've got location 1, there are the actuals, I've got the portfolio budget and the tables. I'm going to go back to my report view. And I'm going to go to location 2 this time. So if I move this over a little bit so we can see it. So there's location 1. I need location 2 actuals also. Again, I'm going to do get data, more, select the folder option and click connect. I'm then going to browse and navigate to location 2. And there's location 2. Click OK. Click OK again. Again, I'm going to select transform data. I'm going to right click on content, do remove other columns, and then I'm going to select the downward arrows to combine the files. I'm going to select sheet 1 and click OK and apply those changes. So now I have brought all the data sources into my Power BI desktop application. Now if I navigate to the table, as I said, we can see that, and we can see location 2 is there. If I then go into the model view, which is where all the relationships are, you can see that Power BI has automatically created some relationships, and this is going to cause a problem for us. So I'm going to delete those and remove those relationships, and all I'm doing is right clicking on the relationship and selecting delete, selecting yes. I don't want Power BI automatically creating any relationships, and the way to switch that off so it doesn't do that, so when you are refreshing your data or importing new data tables, you don't want it creating relationships. You want to control that as far as your data model is concerned. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Options and Settings, I'm going to do Options, and here on the current file, data load, here on relationships, I'm just going to make sure that the update or delete relationships when refreshing data is unticked, and also the auto detect new relationships after data is loaded. I'm going to untick that and click OK, and that should solve that problem going forwards. I'm then going to go back to my report view, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click save here, because at the moment I've not saved my file. I'll give it a name, so I'm going to call this save the file, and I'm going to call it my portfolio dashboard. And the reason why I'm going to call it portfolio dashboard is once we've completed the budget versus actual dashboard, I'm then going to show you how we can combine that with the resource capacity planning information, so it's all in one place as a portfolio dashboard. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to call it, portfolio dashboard, and I'm going to click save. So now it's now saved. So with the report view selected, on the home ribbon, I'm going to select transform data, then transform data again. And now we're in a familiar Power Query view. So the first thing that we need to do is on the monthly actuals location 1 and 2, is I'm going to change this month end title here. I'm going to double click on it and say date and hit return. On location 2, I'm going to double click on it, rename it to date and hit return. And remember, it records the actions like a macro that you do within Power Query. So now we've done that, we now need to do something with our portfolio budget. So if you remember again within the Excel version that we did, we had to unpivot this. So I'm going to select the first 3 columns, so we can then turn these into rows, the months with the values. So with those highlighted, the first 3 columns, I'm going to right click and choose Unpivot Other Columns. And there we go. I'm then going to select the year, because what we need to do is combine these, merge them together, and then turn it into a recognizable date. So I'm going to highlight the year and highlight the attribute, which has got our months in. I'm going to right click on them and do merge columns. So the separator is going to be custom, and we're going to use a hyphen or a dash, and I'm going to call this column date. and click OK. I'm then going to right click on date, on that date column, select it. Well, not right click, and I'm going to select it and I'm going to change it from a data type text to a date. And Power Queries automatically recognize that as a date. I'm then going to double click on the value and I'm going to call this budget and hit return. So it's the budget value. Then up here on close and apply, I'm just going to go apply. So just apply those changes and make sure they're all done and refresh the data. So now that's done, we need to pull that budget information, the actual information, into one table called data. So I'm going to select monthly actuals location 1, and up here on the home ribbon I'm going to choose append queries, drop down, and append queries as new. And we're going to do 3 or more tables, so I'm going to select that. So there's monthly actuals location 1. I'm going to take monthly actuals location 2 and add that, and then the portfolio data that we've created where we did that unpivot, I'm going to add that, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to rename this as data and hit return. So now we've got our program, project and date and actuals and budget information all together. There's another piece of information that we're going to need on our report, and that is our year-to-date actuals and the way that and our year-to-date budget, so we can look at that information on our report dashboard. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to reference data by right clicking on that data query over here, and I'm going to select reference it, and I'm going to rename it year-to-date, so YTD year-to-date data, and click OK. So how are we going to pick up our, well, we've only got data in here where there's actuals, year-to-date actuals, yeah, and then the rest where there's no actuals, we don't want it in here. And the way that we're going to do that is if I take we're going to use a group by function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this data, I need to make it a little bit more generic so the dates aren't different. So the way that I'm going to make this data a little bit more generic so I can group by is take the year and month value out of it and use those values and ignore the day. So with the date column selected, I'm going to do add column, and then from date and time I'm going to select year. So I've now got the year. I'm going to reselect the date column, and again add column from date or time, and then I'm going to go to month and select month. So I've then got the month number. I'm then just going to move these over to the left in front of program column. So I've then got the year, month, program and project. If I then select, because I don't need the date column anymore, so I'm going to remove the date column. So right click on it and remove. I'm then going to select the year all the way to project, so that all those are highlighted, and I'm going to right click and select group by. Then what I'm going to do is the first column that I'm going to aggregate by year, month, program, project is actuals. So type actuals. I'm then going to sum the actuals. So when I'm aggregating it, I'm going to sum it, and the column that I'm going to sum is my actuals column. I'm then going to add an aggregation, which is going to be the budget values. Again, I'm going to sum it, and I'm going to sum the budget column, and I'm going to click OK. So now what Query has done, Power Query has done, is now create that grouping, and where I've got null values here, so in the actuals column, if I do the drop down, if I then untick null and click OK, if we just look at the cog here on that filter, that step that we just created, if I click on the cog, you can see what it's doing is it's showing us everything where the actuals date. So you think about 2024 and that for that month, if there's a null value there, then filter it out. So it's only showing us rows with actuals data in there, and that's how we're getting our year-to-date actuals. So I click OK. So we've now created all our data, which is going to be the data for our actuals and budget information, and our year-to-date actuals and budget information. We've got and we've also got our table projects, which is a cross-reference table. So with all those there and all that data now done, we don't need to do anything else in Power Query. So I'm going to click Home, then I'm going to do Close and Apply. Done. Now, if I now go to my model view for the relationships, as you can see, it's not created any relationships. So I'm going to create a new tab. So these are all tables here, and I want something for my budget versus actual. So I'm going to do new layout. I'm going to right click on it and rename it and call it budget versus actuals, like so. And then the tables that I want are going to be the projects table. So I'm going to click on it over here on the data on the right hand side and drag it into the view and drop it. I'm then going to take the data information, data table. I'm going to right click on it, or left click on it should I say, and drag it over and drop it in here. And then finally the year-to-date data, left click on it and drag it over into the view. Then all I want to do, so I just expand these out so you can see all the columns in here, is I just need to create a relationship between projects in this cross-reference table, projects cross-reference table, to project here in data. And there you can see the one-to-many relationship. If I repeat that to the year-to-date data, right click on it, left click on it, drag over to project and drop it on project in year-to-date. And again, I've got the one-to-many relationship. If I just hold my mouse pointer over it, you can see it highlights what has been linked in both tables. And again, over here on the data, you can see that. So that brings us to the end. We've now prepped all the data preparation that we need. And now when new actuals get loaded into those two file locations, when we refresh the data, Power Query and Power BI will automatically pull that data in. In the next video, we will start to build our data visualization in Power BI using this data. Now, I hope you found this useful. If so, please remember to click that like, subscribe, and smash that notifications button for future content. And as always, I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video from Change Tips and Tools. Bye bye now.